On behalf of LEAP, Linking Educators and Parents, our mission is kind of to bridge support, understanding, acceptance, awareness between and among educators, parents, families, community members, children, and youth around the issue of learning differently. So there's a great quote. I had never heard this before Marilyn set this up for me. And it's the prelude to this song in The King and I. And it's what our panel, who you'll meet in just a couple of minutes, we're going to try to focus around this, and we'll tell you a little bit how we hope the evening goes. But here's the quote. This prefaces the getting to know you. It's a very ancient saying, but a true and honest thought, that as you become a teacher by your students, you'll be taught. As a teacher, I've been learning, so forgive me if I boast. I have now become an expert on the subject I like most. Getting to know you, and you, and you. LEAP meets periodically, and we talk about different things that we think may be helpful to our public around this issue of those of us who learn differently, and I'm one of them, by the way. Semi-successful. If you ask me to put a wagon together that has 4 instructions on it, my wife better do it, because it will end up upside down. I don't get visual stuff. And if that's what they would have taught in school, I would have flunked a lot. So from one who, as they were getting to know me, supported me, we're here to talk tonight, and I want you to meet these people. They're going to tell you a little bit about who they are, what they do, the hat they have on. We're going to preview the evening a little bit with you, and then we're going to talk about this notion of how is it we go about listening, connecting, relating with our children and youth who learn differently and those who have dyslexia. So, Carrie, start us off, please.
Sure. My name is Carrie Vanderpool. I'm a professor at the University of Illinois. I teach microbiology and do research. I also have 2 kids, Henry, who's 8, and Millie, who is 6, and they both go to Kenwood Elementary School. I'm here tonight because both kids have some special needs, and we're kind of, my son, at the moment, we're going through the IEP process for him. We think he may have some needs around reading and writing, as well as some other issues. And so I've been doing a lot of research myself. That's my job. And so this is a different kind of research, but it's something that I feel very passionate about, obviously, because it's about my kids. So I was really happy to be asked to be here and lend whatever perspective I can.
Carrie, thanks. Truly, thank you from both perspectives, Professor, and then that reality touch that we all have with our own children. So thanks for being here. Carla.
Hi, I'm Carla Schroeder. I'm a mom of 3 kids. I'm a teacher in Urbana at Wiley Elementary. I teach kindergarten, got a lot of early childhood focus, where a lot of kids come in really young, developmentally. You're not sure what's going on. Everybody learns differently, everybody thinks differently, but trying to look at ways to support kids in their learning and look at kids who are struggling and find ways to support them or look for resources. Most of the time kids don't have IEPs when they come into kindergarten, so we really haven't targeted what's going on or what they might need more help with. And so I'm just happy to be here tonight, be a part of it.
Carla, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. Thank you. Ron?
I'm Ron Rothschild. I'm a psychotherapist. The first thing I'm going to share, which I wasn't planning to until you commented, Topper, was why do I have notes? Because I can't learn the way some other folks learn. I can hear a refrain of a song 100 times, 1,000 times. It doesn't stick. I can't look at a diagram and put things together, and thank goodness I have a wife also who can assemble things. So it was really helpful just to relate to that on a personal basis. I also have 2 children, grandchildren as well. And one of my children learned effortlessly and much easier than me, and one of my children had attention deficit issues, so I was struggling to figure out, and quite humble, thinking, I'm a professional, I know how to do this. I have no clue. So it's been a humbling experience to try and live that as well. But just very briefly about myself, I've been working as a psychotherapist in this community for over 35 years. I was 6, actually, when I started, in case people are doing the math here. So I've worked with children and families. I work with individuals and couples. I've done consultations, with teachers in schools over the years. So I do a lot of different things. And I hope that I'll have something to contribute along the lines of some maybe aspects of communicating when kids have some different issues, some encouragement or self-esteem building techniques, which is more my forte. Whenever it's a learning issue, I always refer to people like Marilyn. And so I look forward to having a chance to participate here.
Ron, thanks. And Ron is married to an incredible woman by the name of Arlen Gottlieb, who I know, and so we go way back with Ron and Arlen, and it's good to touch base again with Ron. So thanks for the work you've done in the community. Elizabeth.
Yes, thank you. I'm Elizabeth Degree. I'm the Director of Special Ed for Champaign Schools. And I am here as someone who's currently an administrator who oversees special ed, and also as a former special ed teacher.
And I think we're blessed, truly, to have a parent who, along with that, is a professor, a kindergarten teacher, regular education, who brings little 5-year-olds and grows them up to sometime be 6, kind of a thing, to a family therapist, a clinician who's worked with families with all kinds of issues over many, many years, to an administrator who oversees all of Champaign schools and the special ed needs that go on with that. And so bless you all for being here, truly. Thank you. So from your perspective, I don't care who starts it, what's the best practices is a term that gets used a lot. Best practice, what are the best things we can say and do to listen, relate, and connect with our children who learn differently, some of whom have dyslexia? Thoughts?
I can start if you want.
Please,
and Ron and I
do.
were having a little bit of a conversation about this before. I said, I made myself some notes this morning relative to those 3 questions, and really I think the things that I wrote down are the ways that you speak to anyone, right? Be honest, be genuine, be interested in them, be strengths-based, build on their personal interest, make sure they know that that we believe in their ability to grow, and that who they are today does not dictate who they will be forever. So those kinds of things that really let kids know that we believe in them and we're the person who's in their corner. Those kinds of things go a long way, whether it's for any student. But particularly for students who learn differently and know that they learn differently.
Elizabeth, thanks. Other comments?
Well, I can piggyback to that because I agree with you. The things that work are kind of universal. I think they just become that much more important when a child is struggling, a child has some additional challenges. I think encouragement is the cornerstone, to building self-esteem, to building confidence. And by that I want to highlight to making effort to focus on encouraging efforts the child makes. It doesn't have to be anything great. Look at their strengths, look at their contributions. It could be that they were willing to carry something in, that was helpful. It doesn't have to be big, but we have to build on these things. Look at their improvements and simply the ways they enjoy things. If you look at a praise model, you can only have something to say when something really great happens. But if you're looking at an encouragement model, there's always a chance to look at efforts and improvements and so forth. Mm-hmm. And basically, kids who like themselves do better. They perform better. And kids who feel liked are more receptive to the kind of assistance that we offer them. So really, I want to just highlight the importance of listening sympathetically. Go slowly. Don't be too quick to want to fix. Or sometimes that's seen as if you really understood how helpless this was or hopeless this was, you wouldn't be offering me suggestions. Listen first, and don't minimize or don't offer false reassurance. Oh, this will be fine, or you're making too big a thing out of it. Just kind of take it in and listen. And I also think whether it's a parent or a teacher, I think you have to, getting back to the relationship, I think you have to have some kind of fun or enjoyment that's separate from the problems or the tasks. So for parents, make sure the only thing you're not doing when you get home at the end of the day is having a fight over homework. You know, make sure there's something that's just fun and outside the bounds of homework and problems. And teachers too, you know, just have some kind of exchange, even if it's a, you know, a hello or, you know, tap on the back, a good to see you, or something, you know, just something that says, I'm connecting with you outside of the range of challenges or difficulties.
Thanks, Ron. If some of you, I'm part of why I'm here is to just be in the background, but if you're not thinking this, I am. So later, if you don't bring it up, I will. And I'm not trying to cut in here to do your job, but okay, he doesn't do his homework. He's not taken out garbage in 5 months. He comes in with an attitude. He's got a sister that he bugs the snot out of, and I'm supposed to listen and give me a so if you're not doing some of that, I will, okay? So after a while, we're going to get a chance to, because doesn't this all sound kind of, you know what, actually it works. I mean, not only does it sound, but it works. From my perspective, what they're talking about. But where you're cringing a little bit, let's share some of the cringe. Does that make sense to you? Well, if it doesn't, it doesn't. That's okay too. Carla, go.
Well, and for me, kindergarten is hard work for almost everybody. It's rare that I get a kindergartner who comes in the door and says, I've mastered the curriculum. I've got it all. I can do everything. There's something everybody's working on at 5 and 6, right? So I'm huge on relationships with children, seeing them for who they are, the whole person, not just the naughty bits or the things that are challenging, not just the pretty things that they show you either, but really connecting with them, because I need to build that relationship and that inroad in order to get them to work for me later when it's hard, in order to get them to build them up to have pride in who they are and what they can do and what they're good at, so that when I find that thing that they're not good at, I can say, yeah, I know this is hard for you, but you rocked those monkey bars earlier today. So I know that you can sound out the word monkey bars. Help me, you know, and supports in place for them early on. A lot of the things I do in kindergarten, I might have a student with special needs, but I'm doing it for everybody who's in the room. Everybody benefits from the small tweaks or adaptations that I make for the kids in the room. If they don't need it, they don't use it. But it helps, everybody has that access and availability to those strategies. But I'm huge on relationships, finding out, knowing things about them. I had a student a few years ago whose family shared, you know, that he was really great at t-ball, he was really great at soccer, he was really great at skating, he had all these things he was really great at, because they knew that dyslexia was a big thing in their family. They knew that the likelihood that he was going to have it was huge, so they were looking for this really strong base to give him before he went to school and found out that he didn't know his letters and he didn't know his sounds and they didn't make sense to him. And so for her to send videos to me or snaps of him doing those things, and for me to be able to pull those up in the middle of the day, oh, hey, did you know so-and-so just won his meet? It wasn't just that child. It would be anybody whose family could share that story or a photo. But it went miles for him because he thought, she sees the things I can do, not just the things that are hard for me. Mm-hmm. So I recognize the relationship piece that you talk about. It's really big. It's really big with 5-year-olds who want to lay on the floor and cry because you ask them to write their name on the paper. Yeah. Like, but I just can't do that. Oh, I know you can. So you got to learn how to be a cheerleader. You got to learn how to motivate them in another way that's, you know, get the work from them, because it's really hard to get the work from them when it's challenging for them.
There's a great quote that I offered for 45 years to parents with whom I was privileged to work, and educators, and it goes like this: the quality of the relationship between the teacher and the student is critical in determining the quality of learning. And I think it's really a truism. That doesn't mean being friends with kids. I'm not talking about, hey, you got a party this weekend, I'd like to show up, man, I teach you social studies, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the relationship you develop, and you'll have a relationship with every kid you work with, whether it's distant or middle or close, you'll have one. So you bring that to bear real big time. Thank you. Carrie, your thoughts on the...
Yeah, so I think that's absolutely true. The relationship is huge. I also think for my own kids and my own experience that it's really important to assume that kids are doing the best they can with the skills that they've got. And so my kids have some challenging behaviors, and sometimes it looks to me like they're being defiant or they just don't feel like doing this, but those are, I sort of look underneath those behaviors that are annoying at best and make me mad at, on another piece of it. But But if I can step back a little bit and think, what's actually going on here, it's often that they're anxious about doing something that they don't think they can do. And so they're sort of putting up this front of silliness or anger or whatever, because they're trying to get out of doing something that's really hard for them, like you were saying. And so if I start with the assumption that they're doing the best they can, it helps me control my own stress, control my own reactions to them, and get to what they need. So that just in my parenting has been a really important thing for me to learn. And I think it's a good assumption just to start with, that kids do the best they can. I also think something that you said, and something that we've done that's been really important, is for the most part to let school stay at school. To sort of, we try to do homework, but if it's like a fight, we sometimes let it be for the evening and reset ourselves. And we have the support of the teacher. We've got some modifications in place, but they have to be able to come home and feel safe and have some relaxation, to not be focused on their weaknesses all the time. And then I think the other 2 points that I had written down in some notes is just, you kind of trust your instincts. Sometimes things are, you think there might be a problem, you're not sure, you don't want to make a big deal out of it, maybe they'll grow out of it. But I think there's a piece when you're a parent and you know your kid really well, like, you just have to trust your instincts. And if something seems like they're not getting it the way they should, something seems not right, trust that and sort of start looking for answers and advocating for them. Because I think it's, in the long run, you'll be happy you did.
Thank you, Carrie. So what's the worst we can do, and how can we best overcome that and reattach a relationship or connection with our kids?
The worst that I could do would be to compare them to other kids, to hold them to a standard that they can't match, and to assume that they're just being lazy, or they're slacking, or they're just not motivated, or that damages our relationship. That frustrates me. I transfer that frustration to them. Nobody wins. So that safe environment, that protective environment, that's so important and crucial for anybody. I mean, nobody goes into fight or flight and says, oh, well, I'll gather all kinds of information and do some stuff. Like, we have to be in that safe space in order to make any progress at all. So figuring out how to get back to that. And I'm honest with kids. You know what? I got upset. I made a mistake. We all make mistakes. So tell me what it is you need for me to do to fix this. Just like I would ask you to fix it with your friend. How do I fix it for you? Or taking the step back and saying, okay, let's just, 10-minute breather, regroup, figure out what else we can do to repair the situation. Because we're human. We all make mistakes. We all get frustrated or overwhelmed or tired or whatever that is. But I think it's starting with a bad assumption, or starting from a place that isn't providing a safe environment for kids, or a supportive environment for kids, is one of the worst things that we can do, whether I'm a parent or a teacher or a friend.
Thank you. Thanks. Other comments?
I want to kind of connect some of those things too that you guys are talking about, in terms of looking at the relationship, but also looking at kids' behavior, the learning environment, all those kinds of things. Because while we talk about relationship, all of that works together. Yes, we assume kids are doing what they can. That doesn't mean they also can't do more. Yes, we assume that we're coming from a good place in terms of building a relationship with them, but we also need to understand that a relationship is the basis for learning. It's not the end goal if you're in a classroom. And so the idea that you create a safe space where kids have a relationship with you, where they can take risks and push themselves to do things that are difficult, whether that's academically or behaviorally, that's what brings it all together from a school perspective. So in terms of the things that you don't do, you don't say damaging things to kids. If you do say something damaging to someone, whether it's a kid or whether you say something to an adult in front of a kid, you fix it. And that may be about apology, and that may be about restitution. And that's what we teach our kids. That's what we should be teaching our kids. and that's what we should model also. So yeah, again, going back to what I said the first time, it's about the way that you treat people in general. It's true of individuals with disabilities as well.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thanks. Carrie, Ron.
I think that's really key. I love so I think something I have written down is one of the worst things you can do is not understand and not recognize that behavior is communication. And so if you just look at behavior at face value and don't think, what are they trying to communicate to me? You're more likely to punish the behavior rather than to figure it out with the kid as a partner and help teach them a better way. And punishment makes kids feel worse for the most part. If it's just punishment, it makes them feel worse. Restitution makes them feel better. They've done something to fix what they did wrong, because they know that what they did was wrong when they're acting out, when they're behaving in ways that they know are unacceptable. And so restitution gives them the ability to make it right. And I think that's really, for kids with learning disabilities who also have behavioral challenges, I think that's really important. So.
Thanks, Carrie. Ron, thoughts?
Many years ago, I worked with a family, just to tell you how long ago this was. This kid was playing Atari, so I really shouldn't keep doing this.
1927.
So this young fella, he's a high school student, I think he was a freshman, he was getting all Fs. And every day there was this big blowout fight at home. Parents are yelling, do your work, this is terrible, straight Fs. And I said to them, well, what are you so afraid of? Why do you keep pushing this? And they said to me, we're afraid he's going to fail. I said, well, he is. He's got straight Fs. So would you be willing to try something different? Kind of the attitude of focusing on efforts, improvements, so forth. So I said, you've got to just focus on positive things. One day he came home with his backpack. It was empty. There were no books. But they said, oh, it's really good to see you've got your backpack today. They commented on things that he brought home a paper. Oh, wow, you got that English paper done. That's amazing. It was a D-, but they didn't comment on the grade. So they started little by little. They started just focusing, completely changing the dynamic, and being more positive and being more engaging and looking at any effort, even small on his part. And pretty soon he started bringing bits of work home, and he was not a real strong student. He was capable of C's with a few B's, and he brought his grades up to that. But that's the kind of thing that I was trying to stress here. I think we come in sometimes with fear, and we come in sometimes feeling too responsible. This is my job. Well, if your kid gets the message from you that getting the homework done is your job, then that's the attitude they'll have. Really, this is your worry. I don't have to sweat this. So a lot of what if we're pressuring or criticizing or pushing too hard to get work done, that's really an area that's kind of a worst practice. You're really getting into some trouble. So I also think that parents have to take care of themselves. Sometimes parents feel, I'm all about my kid. I've given up everything. I don't go anywhere. Not good, because now you're so invested in the outcome that your child is feeling that pressure. So I kind of talk about diversifying your own self-esteem, the self-esteem eggs in your basket, so to speak. Don't be totally reliant just on what your child is able to accomplish. And really the last thing is, to really be careful not to give false reassurances, because, a kid feel, I'm so stupid, and your parent says, oh, you're just perfect as you are, I just love you, it's like, then they feel like you don't get them. Mm-hmm. They feel like you don't know how bad this is, and that really kind of alienates them from you. And you're much better off saying something like, you're really struggling, or this is really hard for you. I know this has been tough. I think you can get through this, but I know this is a struggle for you. They need to feel like they're seen and heard. So don't just give the glowing, you're just wonderful kinds of things. So,
comments, questions, thoughts that you have of them, please.
From a parent perspective, or both educators, since both of you are parents and educators, whether your child is fully capable or have disability, how do you decide, or where you draw the line between when is your child actually being defiant and when are they actually just having a hard time with whatever it is that you're trying to do with them?
I can tell you kind of what we do in schools to look at kids' behavior, and I think the same thing can work at home. is that we really look at the function of behavior. And so we look at, is the child trying to communicate something or getting some other need met, right? So in a short explanation, all human behavior is to get something or get out of something. You know, all of you are here to either get something or get out of somewhere else maybe that somebody wanted you to be. Some of you needed credit for class, whatever it is, right? And so you have to figure out what it is that the child is trying to get or get out of, or what they're trying to tell you. And once you figure those things out, the behaviors are just the way they get there. And so once you figure out what it is they're trying to get or get out of, how can you manipulate that situation so that they can get or get out of those things using a more appropriate behavior? That's the short version of what we do.
Ron?
I think you raised a really good point, which is we are constantly guessing. No matter how smart we are, how much education we have, how well we know our kid, we're just guessing all the time. You know, not educated guesses here. We know our kid. And I think that your kind of gut instincts will tell you, wow, I kind of let them slide there. You know, we really could have gotten a lot farther on that. I got played pretty well last night. That's not going to happen tonight. And other times you can just really see pretty sincere distress. And my own experience is too often that parents feel so scared. I want my kid to be successful, have opportunities. You know, they may have 10 math problems and they get to 7 or 8 and the kid's done great. And they push and they push, and then there's a blowout on problem 8 or 9. And, you know, they tear up their homework, and I hate you, I'm not going to school tomorrow. And so I'm always, I guess I have a little bit of an attitude of err on the side of pushing a little less, because I think parents get so worried and take on so much responsibility that we often push too hard. And your instincts will tell you whether you're being too soft, you know, you feel like you got played a little bit, and then you can push a little harder. But let up on the pressure before the whole thing becomes a negative experience, because part of what we're hearing tonight is if there's enjoyment or a sense of accomplishment and there's pleasure, kids want to do it again.
Carla, thought, you're writing something, a thought?
So I hear people say choose your battles with your kids, and I have kids who sometimes really want to pick battles with me over silly stuff. You know, that's what they do, right? And when they're babies, you spend all that time going, oh my gosh, they're crying. Do they need their diaper changed? Do they need fed? Do they need a nap? What's the problem? Am I not swaddling right? Whatever it is. I'm still doing that with the 11-year-old over homework every night, right? So I can choose my battles, but I can also choose my strategies. I can choose my tools. I can choose my time of day. Maybe for him, it has to be right after school, and then we just get it out of the way. But for his brother, it has to be later in the evening. I can choose whether he's had a snack first, or whether he gets 10 minutes on the microwave and we make it a game to race through how many problems he can get done. Or I'll tell you what, tonight I'm going to be the person that writes the answers if you can do the computation in your head. Whatever it is, find the tool for that night, find the strategy for that night, because if I come into it fighting the battle with you, I've already lost if I'm letting you fight me in the first place, right? Mm-hmm. It's a battle. I don't want to battle with my child over this. And sometimes I have to say there are nights when I go, okay, well, that's just going to be waiting for you in the morning. Mm-hmm. He's in a different mood in the morning. He might do it in the morning before school. Mm-hmm. Or he might have to fess up to his teacher that it didn't get done and take that disappointment from her. Mm-hmm. But it's looking at all of those, you know, I'm a teacher, I'm a mom, I've got all these tricks in my bag. Which one can I pull out tonight and does it work? If you get done before mom's TV show comes on, I got ice cream in the freezer. It's a big bowl of it's yours. I'll sit there right next to you and we'll both talk about how great it is. So that could be the one thing it takes for him to at least sit down and make the effort to try versus fighting me when I know he can do half of those without my assistance. So,
Other comments or questions from you? Please.
What are your suggestions of, like, if you already have that negative vibe with homework, it's already in place with your child, how could you turn that around and make doing homework every day more positive?
Well, the two things that kind of struck me, you know, having been in that situation myself too, but, you know, is the themes of honesty and then also playfulness and thinking about how we can bring those elements. First, I'd say, I hope you'll forgive me. I've been pushing way too hard with school. I've been really, you know, I got too worried. I kind of forgot myself here. You know, do you think you can cut me a little slack here? And then if you can kind of move in, well, part of it is finding out, well, what do you want out of this? You know, what are you hoping to have happen? You know, I just want to get D's. Or I want to get A's and maybe some B. You know, what do you want to have happen? Oh, I bet we can figure out how to get you there. But I might say, look, we've been really struggling. Do you think there's any chance we could do 5 minutes of math without like totally yelling at each other? You know, let's make a little bet here. You know, kind of make it playful. You think we can do 2 problems without, us getting into a big hassle? I don't know. I don't know if we're ready for that. Do you think we could do that? Oh yeah, we could do 2 problems. Well, let's. You know, I'm guessing no. Let's try it. You know, and then you just bring some playfulness. Wow, we just did 2 problems, and neither of us are crying or yelling. This is how did we get there? You know, if you can bring some of that playfulness into it after you kind of. But you know, we all often forget to ask kids what they want. You know, like, what do you want to have happen with this homework assignment, or this grade, or this class? You know, and if we can sort of connect what we're doing to their hopes and dreams, we have also a better chance of making it happen.
To go with that, my middle child is a very much a pampering, sensory type of child. So it might be changing up the space. It might be saying, you know what, go ahead and take my bed. Just pile up all the pillows and get the fluffy quilt that you like and put some of my lotion on, and I'll even let you wear my fuzzy socks. Or we're both going to wear shorts on our head while you do that, while you're getting through your reading. And he may look up and giggle, but the element of playfulness is there. But he wants me physically present next to him. Versus, you have 3. How am I going to do homework with 3 at the same time? There's only 2 grown-ups at my house. You take that one, get that one started. I'll go with this one, and then we'll switch off. Or who's crying the loudest tonight? That's the one that gets the help tonight, not the other 2 because we think tonight they don't need it. But sometimes it's just me saying, my expectation is that you're going to sit at this table and do this homework, but your expectation isn't the same thing as mine. So what do I need to do to get you comfortable in it? Literally is giving up other spaces in the house and doing crazy things for, lavender oil, whatever it takes to get him to settle in, to feel comfortable.
Well, and I was going to say, you have some of those kids that are the more nurture kids, and some of the kids that are like the structured choice kids. And so, I certainly had students that it would be, the conversation would be, we're going to do 40 minutes of math homework tonight. You can choose when we're going to do it, but just so you're aware that's gonna happen before you go back to school tomorrow. If it doesn't happen today, if you don't choose to do it tonight, that's fine. We'll just get up in the morning and do it. So you have lots of time to choose tonight. If you don't choose tonight, I have to choose tomorrow morning. That works for some kids. Sometimes homework is about the parent-child dynamic. And sometimes kids who will stay after school and do homework with a teacher, that they will fight you for hours on at home. But if you can get, but they will stay and sit with their teacher and do the homework. That's not always, but like if you listen to all of these different things, all of these things are true about different children. So I think, no, you don't battle it all the time, but there's a lot of different options depending on what what's going on with your child. I have also had conversations with parents and kids where we've said this is, especially in high school, these are the credits that you need to pass to graduate. Is graduating important? For most kids, it still is. And if graduating is important, then these are the kind of things that you're going to have to do if you want to graduate. You really hate this class, right? Yeah. So if you don't do this, you're going to be taking this class again. Just so we're all on the same page, we don't have to fight about it, but you will take this class again. And while I'm not a fan of threatening, for some kids they're like, what are you talking about? I'm going to have to take this again, because they've never had that through elementary and middle school. And for some kids that works. So it's, it's about what kind of how you feed that for each child.
Questions, comments, thoughts? Yes.
I was going to comment on your question. I'm a teacher, and one thing with the homework kind of battle is don't be afraid to tell the teacher, you know what, my child is really struggling to get it done. Because sometimes we as teachers don't know that they're struggling. It comes done, and I think, okay, they're doing the practice at home, it must be going fine. But I don't know, it's taking them 2 hours, and them crying, and you being like, come on, you can do it, you can do it. But if you come to me and say, hey, this is being really hard, then I'll have a conversation with the child or with you or come up with some kind of accommodation to help you with it. But if I don't know anything, then I think it's going great. So don't be afraid to come to, the teacher, send a note or a phone call or an email or anything and say, you know what, like, that homework last night was really difficult. I don't know what was going on, but just wanted to let you know my child is really struggling with it. Because I, as a teacher, I want to know that.
Thank you for your point and your comment. Thank you. Question, comment.
My child, Daniel here is in 5th grade, and this year there's been a shift in our house because my husband and I decided that we would institute, like after dinner, we have a half hour of quiet time where we're all engaged together in a room together doing something quiet. So it could be homework for him, it could be reading for my other one. My husband and I are reading or doing things that we need to do, but he doesn't feel alone in his homework situation. Everybody else is, before it was like he was doing homework, oh, you gotta do that. We're all engaged in other things around him. No wonder he doesn't want to go to do homework. And when we're all doing other things that we enjoy, and he feels like he has to do this one thing. And I feel like things have really changed as far as the homework goes this year when we all sit down together and have that focused quiet time.
Comment on that. How does that fit to the night we're talking about? Elizabeth?
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. I think just think outside the message, just think outside the box. Like if your kid likes to be under the table and do homework, fine. Like, they don't have to sit in a chair at a table to do homework in a beanbag my kids like to be in little spaces. So in a cardboard box that's like a little tent or something,
But the chaos of our lives, to have everybody in your house sit down, no electronics, no nothing, and just engage, it's a great idea.
Yes.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thanks. Ron or Carla, thought?
I wanted to say, we think about that a lot when kids have attention deficit problems, because some of the way we substitute for their difficulty focusing is to sit next to them and have that physical presence, and that brings their attention. But you're really making a point that this is important, really, to set that atmosphere. It helps focus. It helps create an atmosphere where it's easier to attend, and we feel like we're kind of in it together. It's great. It's great to hear.
What's the best thing? What's your name?
Rachel.
Rachel. What's the best thing that we can do, anyone in this audience or the four of you, to best help Rachel between us as educators and parents?
Have Rachel figure out what it is that she needs to learn and be able to advocate for it for herself.
But remember, you're a team with the parents and the teachers.
Huge.
And pull a team together for them. Don't just be accusatory or, say, oh, you're not doing anything.
That we goes a long way. We. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Elizabeth. Ron?
Well, kids who feel good about themselves generally do better. And so I think we've talked a lot about encouragement strategies. That's really important. And it's important not to sacrifice our relationship over homework. There was a period of time with one of my children who just said, I'm not going to do any work. You can punish me, you can reward me anything you want, I'm not doing it. So we had certain restrictions when nothing else worked, and I said, I don't want to fight every day. I don't want to sacrifice our relationship. We had our study hour, magazines, you had to do something that was about reading or school related. It had to look like school or academically oriented. And certain freedoms weren't won back, but we had to ride out that period where not a lot of work took place. But I wasn't going to let go of our relationship. And if you think about it, nobody wants to hear anything from somebody unless they think that person likes them and thinks well of them. So if you give that away, if you give your relationship away, you really have no influence. That's where your power is, truly, with your child or your student. And, it's interesting, that's so true in so many areas, like even in terms of marriages. A researcher, John Gottman, pretty much has shown that he can predict whether a couple is going to stay together. He has a little recording, and he's got some system where if he hears a certain number of positives compared to negatives, the relationship is strong, it's going to continue. If it's off of that, he predicts pretty accurately that the relationship's not going to go. So it doesn't matter whether you're a kid or an adult. If you don't feel like you hear positives, you don't feel liked, and you don't feel well thought of, things aren't going to work very well.
Thanks.
Still remember that that's a parent relationship, not a friend relationship.
Yes.
And it's a teacher relationship, not a friend with your student relationship. Because they need that relationship too, you know? That's a different measure than what they have with their friend.
Right.
Thank you. Carla, thought best we can do as parents and educators to build a bridge to Rachel?
Sure, so I would say it's resource-based at this point in the conversation, thinking about, maybe I'm not good at the math piece. Find the person in your world or the person you can take your child to. Maybe, hopefully it's a neighbor or a spouse or a friend or a grandparent that you can trade off. You know, my superpower is creativity and crafts, but your superpower might be reading and comprehension. Share those superpowers with each other. Educate each other's children, or find the resources in other places. Maybe it's online somewhere, maybe it's not. Maybe it's part of the LEAP group, right? But don't feel like you're alone in it, and don't feel like you only have your own child to look out for. We can look out for each other's kids and share that information.
Carrie, thought?
Yeah, I think, you know, making sure that you listen to your kids, and, you know, there's got to be some things that, you know, here's my set of values. It's important to me that you do your best and blah, blah, blah. But I've always got your back, and we'll get through this. And having that same attitude with the teachers. I mean, every teacher that I've worked with or known in my kids' school has at heart had the kids' best interests in mind, and I think the vast majority of teachers do. So that, like, they're really on your team and on your kids' team, and I think it's important to keep that in mind too.
Thank you. I'd just say give them a hand. Thank you.